Some wounds are inflicted without a single harsh word, leaving silent scars on the heart. This is the story of my scar. I believed I had found a rare connection, a kindred spirit. But in the quiet truth of the end, I was merely a placeholder, a remedy for his loneliness. My name is Ellie, and for a long time I lived with the quiet conviction that I was unworthy of love. I resided in the unassuming city of Dayton, Ohio, where my life was a cycle of quiet routines. My job was at a small pet food warehouse, a place of cardboard and metal, where my hands spent hours placing cans into boxes. It was simple, predictable work. Each day was a mirror of the last. Wake, work, return home, eat a meal for one. I had no boyfriend, no family close by, just a single friend, Mia, a bright spark of chaos who worked alongside me. She was loud and full of life. I was the quiet shadow. Then, on a perfectly ordinary Monday morning, my world tilted. I met Ethan. He was there to repair one of the conveyor belts, dressed in a simple blue work shirt, but his eyes held a warmth that felt anything but ordinary. "Where's the manager?" he asked. I simply pointed, my voice trapped in my throat. But as he walked away, my gaze lingered. A strange flutter, a tiny, unfamiliar current, pulsed in my chest. I couldn't name it. The next day he returned. "Hi again," he said with a smile that reached his eyes. I managed a small smile back, still a creature of few words. He asked for my name. "Ellie," I whispered. "That's a sweet name," he replied, and those 4 simple words echoed in my mind for the rest of the day. His visits became more frequent. He made it a point to seek me out, to break through my quiet shell with gentle jokes or a simple compliment about my sweater. I was cripplingly shy, my responses brief, but inside, a silent symphony was playing. No man had ever looked at me with such focused attention. I was never the girl who turned heads. I wore no makeup. My hair was plain, but Ethan saw me, or at least, he made me feel seen. One Friday, he finally asked, "Would you want to get a coffee after work?" A chill ran down my arms. I was terrified, but a hopeful yes escaped my lips. That evening, in a small cafe near the bus station, he drew my story out of me. I told him about my solitary life, my distant parents, my lack of siblings. "I don't get out much," I admitted, feeling exposed. He just nodded and said, "That's okay. I like quiet people." It felt like he had given me permission to be myself, and I was overcome with a quiet joy. From that day on, we saw each other more often, on weekends or after a long day's work. He would say he loved spending time with me, that I had a calming effect on him. I began to feel a deep connection, a closeness I had never known. He never used the word girlfriend, but his daily texts felt like a promise. "You're so sweet," he'd write. "You make me feel peaceful." And I, starved for affection, believed every word. One night, walking home after dinner, he took my hand. My fingers intertwined with his, and I felt a surge of hope so strong it was almost painful. I didn't ask what we were. I didn't want to shatter the beautiful illusion. I told myself that if I was patient enough, he would eventually say the words I longed to hear. Weeks melted into a comfortable routine. He would come to my apartment, and I'd cook for him. He'd hold me close on the sofa, and for those moments I felt completely safe. I told Mia everything. "Be careful, Ellie," she warned, her eyes full of concern. But I waved her worries away, convinced she didn't understand the special, quiet language Ethan and I shared. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, the melody began to change. The daily calls became less frequent. His excuse was always the same. "I'm just so busy with work." When I'd ask if he was okay, he'd reply, "Yeah, just tired." But a cold distance was growing between us. My texts would sometimes hang in the air for hours, unanswered. Plans we made would be canceled at the last minute. I'd find myself sitting alone in a cafe, watching the door, my heart a heavy stone in my chest. Still, I made excuses for him. He's just stressed. One night, my anxiety got the better of me. "Do you still like me?" I asked, my voice trembling. He sighed, a sound full of irritation. "Why do you ask so many questions? You're overthinking again, just relax." His words were a dismissal, a slap of cold air. I went home and cried, my pillow soaking up the silent testament to my hurt. The next morning, a text arrived. "Sorry if I was rude, was tired." And like a fool, my hope bloomed again. "It's okay," I typed back, desperate not to lose him. One weekend, my calls went straight to voicemail. 3 times. I sent a single message. "Is everything okay?" The silence that followed was deafening. On Monday, he walked into the warehouse as if nothing had happened, laughing with a coworker. He didn't approach me. He didn't even look my way. My heart hammered against my ribs as I walked up to him during the lunch break. "Why didn't you call me back?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked at me, his expression flat. "We're not married, Ellie. You don't need to check up on me." Heat flooded my face. I felt an inch tall. I turned and walked away, my legs unsteady, the urge to scream a burning coal in my throat. I finished my shift in a fog of silent humiliation. That night, my small kitchen felt like a prison. I stared at my phone, willing it to light up, but it remained dark. I replayed every moment we'd shared, every meal I'd cooked, every hour I'd waited, every secret I'd listened to. I had given him pieces of myself, and all he had given me were empty words. No promises, no love, just a temporary cure for his own loneliness. Mia called. Through my tears, I told her everything. Her voice was firm but gentle. "Ellie, he never gave you anything real. You were the giver and he was the taker. That's all it ever was." I was silent for a long time before whispering, "I think you're right." But my foolish heart still ached for him. The next time I saw him, I gathered every ounce of my courage. "Ethan, I don't think I can do this anymore." He raised an eyebrow. "Do what?" "This, us," I said, the word feeling foreign and false on my tongue. He let out a short, cold laugh. "What us? We were just having fun, Ellie." His words were shards of ice piercing me. "I loved you," I whispered, the confession tasting like ash. He looked at me not with pity, but with disdain, as if I were a child. "You made that up in your own head. I never said anything like that." I didn't let him see my tears. I just turned and walked away. That night, sitting on the edge of my bed, the full weight of it all crushed me. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and saw a woman who had poured her entire soul into a vessel that was never meant to hold it. The pain was immense, but beneath it, a new feeling stirred. A sense of finality. I was done. Done waiting. Done begging for scraps of affection. He used me. He never chose me. But now, finally, I was going to choose myself. The next morning, I woke to a cold, quiet room. I sat on the edge of my bed, the floorboards cool beneath my feet. I was exhausted, a deep, soul-level weariness that sleep couldn't fix. The ache in my chest was still there, a dull, constant throb, but the tears had stopped. This time I would not cry. I made a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the gray, rainy world outside. I thought of all the hours I had wasted, my life on pause, waiting for a notification from him. A wave of sadness washed over me, but it was followed by a flicker of anger. I opened my phone and scrolled through our message history. A graveyard of short replies and hollow apologies. With trembling hands, I deleted the entire thread. Then I deleted his number. It felt like severing a final, toxic cord. At work, I saw him laughing with someone near the loading dock. He didn't glance in my direction. As I walked past, my heart beat a nervous rhythm against my ribs, but I didn't break my stride. I took refuge in the back room for a few moments until Mia found me. "You okay?" she asked softly. "I'm trying," I replied. She gave me a small, encouraging smile. "That's a good start." That evening, for the first time in months, I didn't compulsively check my phone. I made myself a bowl of soup and watched a movie. The silence in my apartment was no longer lonely. It was peaceful. I started asking myself questions I hadn't considered in a long time. What do I like to do? What makes me truly happy? I didn't have the answers yet, but the simple act of asking felt like a new beginning. On Saturday, Mia dragged me to the mall. We window shopped, tried on ridiculous shoes, and ate ice cream. "I feel strange," I told her. "Not happy, not sad, just empty." She nodded knowingly. "That's normal. You gave away a piece of your heart. It needs time to grow back." I looked at the crowds of people swirling around us, laughing, talking, some alone like me, and for the first time I didn't feel so small. I was just one person in a vast, sprawling world. That night I wrote a list, not of grand dreams, but of small, achievable actions. Wake up early, go for a walk, call Mom, clean my room, learn one new thing. It was a simple blueprint for rebuilding my life. The next morning, I got up and walked around my block, breathing in the crisp, cool air. It felt like inhaling a new possibility. At work, I focused. I did my job, and I did it well. I no longer scanned the warehouse for a glimpse of him. He made no effort to speak to me. No further apology was offered. It was clear he didn't care. But the difference was, I was finally starting to care about myself. A week passed, then another. Each day, the weight on my chest felt a little lighter. One afternoon, a new guy started in the receiving department. His name was Aaron. He was nothing like Ethan. He wasn't overtly charming or slick with his words. He was quiet, kind, and profoundly respectful. He said thank you when I showed him where the supplies were. He didn't hold my gaze for too long or offer easy compliments, but I felt a sense of ease in his presence. We worked near each other occasionally. He asked about my job. "It's simple, but it's okay," I said. He replied, "You do it well." That was it, a simple, honest observation. There were no butterflies, no anxious waiting for a text. There was no rush of infatuation. There was just peace, Mia noticed. "He seems nice," she commented. "Yes, he is," I agreed, but I was guarded. I wasn't ready to fall, not ready to risk that kind of pain again. So I offered him polite smiles, but kept my distance. One evening, I stayed late to finish organizing a shipment. Aaron was still there, sweeping the floor. "You always stay late," he observed. "Sometimes," I said. "You're a hard worker." I looked up and met his eyes, offering a small smile. "I try." Then he said something that stopped me in my tracks. "Some people don't see the quiet ones, but I do." My heart softened, but I said nothing, just gave a single, slow nod. That small moment replayed in my mind all night. I thought of his words, of all the times I had felt invisible. And here was someone who saw me, not with false flattery, but with quiet perception. Still, I told myself, this time, Ellie, take it slow. The following weekend, I put on some music and cleaned my entire apartment. I danced with my broom, laughed at my own reflection, and felt silly and wonderfully alive. I called my mom and we talked for an hour about everything and nothing. I told her I was trying to feel strong again. "You are stronger than you know," she said, her voice a warm comfort. That night, I looked at the empty space on the bed beside me. It no longer felt like a void. It felt like my own space. I was learning that I didn't need someone else to feel complete. Aaron continued to be a gentle presence at work. He never pushed, never pried. He was just kind, and for now that was enough. Then, one afternoon, Ethan approached me. "Can we talk?" I looked at him, my heart calm. "Why?" He looked down at his shoes. "I made a mistake." I said nothing. "You were good to me," he mumbled. "And I wasn't good to you." "I know," I said simply. He looked up, surprised by my lack of emotion. "But I'm not the same person anymore," I continued. "I don't wait around for people who don't want me." He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. "You used me for fun. I don't want fun anymore. I want peace." He just nodded slowly and walked away. I turned and went back to my work. There were no tears, no lingering ache. For the first time, I felt truly free. After that day, the change within me solidified. It was a slow sunrise after a long, dark night. The memories were still there, but they no longer had the power to hurt me. I was still quiet, but I was no longer weak. I laughed more freely with Mia at lunch. I even started sitting with Aaron sometimes. We had simple conversations about our days. He never made me feel small. He made me feel safe. One day, he asked if I wanted to go for a walk in the park after work. I said yes. The evening was warm, the wind gentle. We walked in comfortable silence for a while. "You're easy to be with," he said eventually. I smiled. "Thank you." He looked at me, his gaze serious but kind. "You've been hurt before, I can see it." "Yes," I admitted. "But I'm learning to be okay again." He nodded. "That's good. Don't let anyone break you." His words were a balm to my soul. We didn't talk of love, we didn't hold hands, but I felt a new kind of hope. A quiet, steady hope that maybe, one day, I could trust my heart with someone again. The next weekend, Mia and I took a bus trip to a nearby lake. We ate snacks, sang along to the radio, and watched the world go by. We walked barefoot in the sand, laughing as the cool water lapped at our ankles. That night, sitting by the shore, she looked at me. "You're a different person now, Ellie." "I know," I said, looking out at the moonlight dancing on the water. "I like this version of you," she said. I smiled. "Me too." I started doing more for myself. I joined a book club at the library. I learned to cook new meals. I was building a life that I loved for myself. One day, Aaron asked me to dinner. "Just dinner," he added, as if sensing my hesitation. I looked into his steady, patient eyes and felt no fear. "Yes," I said, "I'd like that." We went to a simple, cozy restaurant. The conversation was easy. He listened more than he talked. When he walked me home, he simply said, "Take care, Ellie." But his gentle tone said so much more. We started seeing each other more, taking small, careful steps. One evening, sitting on a park bench as the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I turned to him. Thank you for being so patient with me. He looked at me, a soft smile on his face. You're worth the wait. My heart didn't race in a frantic, anxious way. It felt calm, settled, and safe. A few days later, I saw Ethan in the parking lot. Our eyes met for a fleeting second. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing at all. He was a chapter in a book I had already finished reading. That night, I stood by my window, looking up at the stars. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who cried herself to sleep, the one who constantly wondered why she wasn't enough. Now I knew the answer. I was always enough. I had just been trying to give my heart to someone who didn't have room for it. My life wasn't a perfect fairy tale, but it was mine. I had peace in my heart and hope in my eyes. I had found myself, and I would never, ever give myself away for nothing again.